Asian industry. You know all that. You have got factories everywhere. Maybe to start with, what is the global situation of the automotive industry today? How do you see the world of automotive industry?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you very much for hosting me, and I'm very pleased to be here to represent Stellantis, and thank you to Luke for the invitation. It was pretty interesting for me to spend the day with you today. Globally, the automotive industry is going into a strong wave of regionalization. And what we see around Stellantis, as you know, we operate in all the continents, and we have more than 90 plants, vehicle plants, around many countries. What we see around is that any region is going into a different wave of development, right? So we see China growing a lot with the new technologies that are very fast in delivering to the market. We see the south of the world, so South America and Middle East and Africa, growing on back of new GDP growth and additional demographics. We see North America that recently changed a lot around regulation, starting a period of what we believe steady growth. And then we see Europe, where this growth is not happening. Actually, I completely share the concerns of Francois and Luc. Europe is going downward, right? And is the only region in the world, the only big automotive region in the world that has not recovered the pace before pre-COVID, which obviously is an alert to all of us.
So maybe, sorry to ask you this question very strictly, but are you still a European company, or are you an American company? What about France? What about Europe? How do you see your future there?
Well, I'm Italian, so I'm European, right? And well, our company is very global, right? But what we recognize is that in being global, we have very deep regional roots, right? And when we talk of Europe, half of what happens in Europe for Stellantis comes from France. France is at the heart of Stellantis in Europe, right? We have 39,000 colleagues that are French working here in this beautiful country. We have 22% of our R&D workforce that is French and work in France. In France, Stellantis is the company that overall is leading the ranking of patents licensing. And we lead this ranking in France, we lead this ranking in Italy, we lead this ranking in Brazil, for instance. But France by far is the one that generates more patents. It's more than 1,100 here. It's around 600 in Italy, it's around 200 in Brazil. So we appreciate a lot the brands that we have here, Peugeot, Citroën, DS, they are all very iconic, and the people that are here are very creative. So France is really the heart of what we represent. In Europe is the second profit generation of Stellantis globally, and it represents a lot to us. So being global and being French is very good together.
This is not to criticize, but you, as a global company, you have to do the best choice to make the best investment wherever you should do it. It's your role, it's your mandate. What do you need to continue to invest in Europe and in France? What kind of decision are we waiting for? We will have the Ministry of French Economy later on, and also French Commissioner. What do you need from them to continue to invest in France and Europe? And if they don't, you can stop. I mean, you have your US shareholders who are, I'm sure, very keen to tell you that it's better to invest in the US than in Europe. So how do you deal with that?
Oh, well, actually, we invest a lot in Europe and in France. This year only, we invested more than 2 billion euro in France. And if you recollect the year before, you see a very similar pace. So again, France is the second investment center in the world for Stellantis, okay, after US. And yes, you are right, in US, we recently announced a $13 billion investment in the next 4 years. There are many reasons around that, but the main important, I believe, the most important is regulation, right? So I believe that Luc has said that. I thank you for that, Francois as well. We truly believe that regulation, the way they've been set by Brussels for Europe, are wrong. They are not half perfect. They are not imperfect. They are wrong, right? So, I mean, I don't know how to say in French, but well, what I see is that with the regulation that we have in place, that basically Europe was able to mandate the end of the technologies where we lead. And by the way, we can use them also for further decarbonization, as Francois was saying. On the other side, the same regulation have mandated the adoption of only one technology that we are very keen to develop, but where basically the Chinese automaker have a huge competitive advantage since they spent the last 20 years to plan very well an ecosystem that finally is very competitive to them, much more than to us, and ensure to them the full control of the value added in that industry, from the control of the raw material to the last step of electric cars. So we need to make sure that Europe understands that the regulations are wrong. They are constrained the customer to one choice only, and they are reducing the industry that we represent. And by the way, we are doing our parts, right? We are investing a lot. We are more than 40 nameplates today in Europe that have an electric twin, and we invested billions of euro in that. Still, we see that the market is not at the same pace of the regulation, because basically regulation are imposing a pace which is not what the customer want, not what the customer need, not what the customer can afford. So 3 nots, right? I don't see any yes. So that is the point, right? The point is now to work together, and the good thing is that we have developed a real one voice in ASEA under Ola leadership, and to make sure that this one voice is clear to Europe. We need to change big, and we need to change urgently and fast.
So let's talk about what we need to change to make things right and not wrong. Let's start by 2035. What is your point of view about that, about this deadline? What do we have to change it, or do we have to modify it?
No, well, to change few very important things, and we need also to be very simple in the change that we want to propose. Before talking about 2035, we need to talk about 2026, then 2030, and then 2035. What I believe is that we all together need to recognize that the industry is very different in passenger cars and in light commercial vehicles. So in passenger cars, the regulations are wrong. Light commercial vehicles are very, very, very wrong, right? So that is the starting point. And then starting from there, on light commercial vehicle, we need to change targets. They are simply not attainable, right? We need to change targets. The targets that we have imposed today, they are imposing the average user of a light commercial vehicle, for instance, a plumber, to change the current 10 years old vans into a new one that represent to him or to her a much higher TCO, total cost of ownership. So we will not change it. It will stick with the old one that, by the way, pollute more. Right? So first of all, on light commercial vehicle, we need to change targets. Absolutely. Then we go into passenger cars. I believe everything Francois has said, we completely endorse as Stellantis. I would suggest to make it in a couple of big topics. Number one, I believe that we need to modify regulation in order to privilege small cars, EV cars that are small, because they pollute less than the mid-size, the mid and the large cars, right?
So to change the regulation for those cars, for those smaller cars?
Yeah. For instance, to concede super credits to them, right? The second is, as I said before, technological neutrality. not only BV, but many other technology that can help decarbonization. The third thing is car park renewal. So as you probably know, today in Europe, the car park is made by 256 million cars. More than 150 millions are old cars. They have more than 12 years, so for sure they pollute more than a modern car. And finally, as said, to distinguish passenger cars from light commercial vehicle, because on light commercial vehicle targets needs to be changed urgently and quickly. By the way, France, together with Italy, are the largest producer in Europe of light commercial vehicles, so they will benefit out of that.
What about local content? Do you think it's a good idea to solve those issues? And what would you recommend? I mean, you know, in the US there is a strong local content act and regulation. How do you deal with that? And do you think it would be a good idea for Europe?
I believe local content is a good idea for Europe. Obviously, the framework of local content needs to be studied deeply, because one side we want local content, the other side we don't want to damage competitiveness. But I understand is a good idea. I believe that should not condition the urgent and fast approval that we need on all the rest, but can go in parallel. We can engage ASEA, as we are doing, to work on that, and I'm sure that we will find a simple and pragmatic solution also on that, to be paired to the major regulation, but not to be used as condition to that.
Just to understand better, in the US, how do you deal with the new regulation and the customs and the taxes?
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of local content from Mexico or whatever. So how is the situation today?
Well, in US, the next negotiation of USMCA, which will regulate the local content needed in the NAFTA agreement, this is ongoing and probably will be deployed and made clear by first half or maybe beginning on second half of next year, right? So today we are under the regulation that are current today. We pay tariffs, obviously, and the major effort for us is to invest in US, as we are doing.
So you're going to invest more in the US? It's in your...
We announced it already, $13 billion for the next 4 years.
Billion, yeah.
It's what we intend to do, and what we see there is a big growth, again, a big growth that is driven also by the fact that the current administration changed regulation and gave back to the Americans the freedom of choice. So they can now, the contrary than European, can order the car that they want, the car that they need, and the car they can afford. So there they have 3 yes, and here today you have 3 no's, and we need to change that.
Does that mean that decarbonation is... Does that mean the US that decarbonation is not on the top of the priorities?
Well, as Francois said, generation by generation, correctly, we have been working in technologies, IC technologies, but also now we have the hybrid technologies, the mild hybrid technologies, the plug-in technologies that have helped in creating cars and that have a much lower CO2 emission than before. And we are keen in keep doing that, right? The trend is not under discussion. And the objective to have an industry that is able to decarbonize is an objective that we share in all regions, and we are very committed to. The problem is that here in Europe, we created a regulation that they don't reflect at all market orientations. And that's why we lost 3 million units from pre-COVID to today. 3 million units is a lot of jobs that we lost, right? And we cannot afford to lose other 3 million units in the market for the next 5 years. That would be a disaster. By the way, in the same time, we are welcoming a lot of non-European competitors with their technology. So while the industry is going down, the market share in the industry of the European automaker is also going down. So we have a double negative effect that we need to change. And the key is regulations, nothing more, exactly as US shows to us. In US, we are decarbonizing as well, right? Not at the speed that the European regulations are imposing, but in a speed that the market is accepting. This is the major point. is to have the market aligned with what you want to do and vice versa.
But what if regulation doesn't change enough? Do you have a plan A, a plan B? What do you tell your board? I mean, François told us there is issue like 2026. There were issues in 2030 for the professional cars and trucks. But it's not in your hands. I mean, we don't know what the regulator will do. We don't know what the European Union will do. What if they don't do anything? What will happen with the European industry? And what will be your strategic investment decision?
So the highest body of representations of the automotive industry in Europe is ASEA. And we have full consensus in ASEA. So the automotive industry is one voice on that. I spoke with the Italian unions, and they agree on our agenda, the ASEA agenda. I spoke to the French unions, as François did for sure. We found a total consensus on the French unions. I spoke with the European unions, and also they all agree on our agenda. I spoke with the suppliers, and they all agree. So, I mean, there is such a large consensus on many, many stakeholders around our industry that there is no plan B. There is just the plan A, I believe, and then we need to push it into the policymakers. That, by the way, they opened the dialogue that we call strategic dialogue. So this is very good because finally there is a channel of talking. And now we need a strategic, fast, urgent, and big decision. So this is the plan.
Let's talk frankly today. The main obstacle is French, because the proposal from the German and from the Italian was to lose a little bit the regulation and to be able to do what you said. But today it's blocked. So by the French, they say they don't endorse the way of flexibility for 2035. So that's
no, I don't believe that. Actually, on the contrary, I believe that France has a huge voice in the industry. Globally and even bigger in Europe, and I believe that by intensify the dialogue with French authorities, we can have them along with us, and that would be to multiply the strength that already Germany and Italy are having. So I don't see any obstacle, and I see a normal, productive dialogue that needs to be intensified because we are very close to December, which appears to be a milestone of decision. And again, for our industry, for the suppliers, for our people, these decisions are weighted to be big and urgent.
What is your views about the Chinese competitors? Do you think we should protect from them with taxes, like the US do? Do you need time to compete with them, or do you see them as a good challenger and opportunity to improve yourself?
No, obviously, they are great challengers, right, and great competitors. They bring top-notch technology. They are very strong into electrification, as we all know. They are growing, not only Europe, but also in South America and the Middle East. By the way, we have invested in one Chinese company, and we are very happy with the results that we have through Leapmotor. What I believe is that what really we need to do is to make sure that Europe can develop and has time to develop the autonomous on that part of industry that Europe deserves, right? So as usual, China was very smart in having a long-term planning of around 20 years to make sure that this technology was full managed from the raw material through each step of value added up to the cars that we see today. So they finally built an ecosystem using policies, using incentives to demand, using investment infrastructure and in supplier base, an ecosystem that deliver a perfect equation of high technology, great quality, and mainly competitiveness. And that lasted 20 years of consistent planning and consistent execution. And we need to do the same. So we need time to do that. That's why the flexibilities. So if we adopt those flexibility, we can manage the technology that we lead as European with our great engineering, with our great designers, with our great creativity. And in the meanwhile, we can build the ecosystem as efficiently as China did. Today, this ecosystem is giving zero autonomy to our industry. Look at an Xperia chip crisis. Look at the April rare earth crisis that we very painful went through, right? This autonomy we need as China automakers have, and we need time to build upon that.
We will talk about technologies a lot this afternoon. We of course about decarbonation, but also about autonomous cars. What are your view about them? About the no driver cars?
Oh, they are great. No, we have recently announced a partnership on robotaxi, right? With NVIDIA, with Uber, with Foxconn, and we are very hardly and intensely working to that. And at the same time, we have a partnership that we started with Pony AI that in Europe, in Luxembourg, is already delivering prototypes, robotaxis, to be experienced. So ADAS and autonomous driving is one of the three major chapters where we see auto technology is going through.
Your predecessor, Carlos Tavares, told Les Echos last week that he thinks Tesla won't survive in 10 years.
Won't?
Yeah, won't. Yeah. Do you think so?
I don't know. I will ask Elon when I'm back to US. No, I believe that Tesla has been such a big inspiration for many of us, right? We always refer to Tesla as the automaker that invented electrification, right? Actually, Tesla did many things, right? They introduced the innovative manufacturing system. They introduced very big innovations in the software space, and obviously many things around electrification. So I don't know what's going on with Tesla in the next 10 years. I just must say that they're being inspiring for many of us, and they're being leading a lot of innovations in our industry.
Maybe to finish, let's go back to France. You said 39,000 workers. I think they were like 50,000 like 15 years ago. So how many French employees will you have in 10 years? And factories, it's 13?
12.
12. Same question. How many factories in 10 years in France?
In 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk this year. So this year we recruited here in France 1,400 new colleagues. And that is big news because we are coming from and year-over-year, as you reminded to us, decreasing workforce, and now we are back into recruitment. So we recruited this year 1,400 colleagues here in France, and not only in France, by the way. We recruited 400, for instance, in Italy. And next year, we are planning to recruit even more in France. So at least for this year and next year, our plan is to recruit people, young engineers if we can, young industrial operator, young people to employ in our fantastic company, because we want this young blood to refresh our way of thinking for the future. Then 10 years is a question which is hard to answer, but for the 10 years rebuilding of the industry, Stellantis, Renault Group, Mercedes, and all the others, we need 10 years wise regulations. Regulations that will push the market up and not the market down. Regulation that we will deliver to the Europeans, as in US, the freedom of choice. The freedom of choice is the cars that they want, the cars that they need, and the cars they can afford.
Thank you very much, Antonio. Filosa.
Thank you.
Merci à tous, merci Antonio. On va donc maintenant réunir les équipements. Je crois, j'ai un petit doute parce que ça va très très vite. Je reprends juste mon programme. D'abord, je pense que on a le CEO de Mercedes, pardon. Ah non, donc c'est après? D'accord, pardon. Alors,
Alors, je reprends mon conducteur. Vous avez vu que ça va très vite et que je suis tout seul. Donc, je reprends mon conducteur et on y va. Voilà. Exactement. Donc,